Hello guys, and welcome to this video on differentiation. And in this video we are going to be differentiating from first principle 1 all over x. So given that y is equal to 1 over x, let's say we are asked to find dy all over the x. So let's say we are asked to find dy all over the x if y equals 1 over x. Now to do this, the first thing you do is increase y by a change in y, and that will also cause an increase in x by a change. So we are going to have y plus change in y. You increase y by change in y. That means you're also going to increase x by change in x. So you have 1 all over x plus change in x. Now from this point, what you do is simply send y over to this side of the equation, leaving change in y on the left hand side. So if I have change in y being equal to 1 all over x plus change in x, now sending over y here becomes minus y. Remember, if a positive sign crosses an equal to sign, it becomes negative. Now you recall that y itself is actually what? 1 all over x. We said this earlier. So in place of this y here, we simply plug in 1 over x. The equation becomes change in y to be equal to 1 all over x plus change in x. Now minus, in place of this y, we simply put in what? 1 over x, simply because y is 1 over x. Now at this point, what you will do is simply take LCM, and if you do that, you're going to have change in y to be equal to, the LCM between these two is simply the multiple of the two denominators. So I have x plus change in x multiplying through by x. This serves as the LCM. Now, so let's divide through by the LCM. Using this LCM, x plus change in x times x, divide by x plus change in x. You observe that x plus change in x cancels x plus change in x. I am left with simply what? X. X times 1 simply gives me x at this numerator. Remember, there's a minus sign here, so minus. Again, let's use this denominator now to divide this denominator. So I simply have x plus change in x times x dividing through by x. You observe that x cancels x, so I am left with what? X plus change in x. X plus change in x multiplies 1 simply gives me x plus change in x. So we simply have this times x plus change in x. Now I'm going to have change in y to be equal to, now let's expand this bracket with this negative sign, so it becomes minus times x minus x, and minus times change in x minus change in x. So I'm going to have x minus change in x. The whole of this divides by x plus change in x multiply by x. So this simply implies that we are going to have change in y to be equal to, so you observe here that x actually cancels x, so I have x minus x, that's off, so I am left with negative change in x at the numerator there. So I have negative change in x minus change in x all over, so I have x plus change in x now multiply by x. Now at this point, the next thing you do is simply what? We want to find dy all over the x, so it simply makes sense to find change in y all over change in x, which means we are going to be dividing both sides. Divide both sides by change in x. If that is done, I'm going to now have at the left hand side change in y all over change in x. This is going to be equal to, I have negative change in x at the numerator all over, remember I have x plus change in x multiplied by x. Now divide by what? Change in x. So you observe that this change in x here goes into this change in x here. So change in x, negative change in x divides change in x becomes what? Negative 1 at the numerator. So I'm going to have, this simply implies that I'm going to have change in y all over change in x to now be equal to, at the numerator I will simply have negative 1 all over x plus change in x. Now this multiplied by what? X, and we have this. Now the principle of differentiation says before change in y can be called change in x, we have to consider a limit which states the limit as change in x approaches 0, the term change in y all over change in x approaches what is called the y all over the x. So this simply means in this equation, wherever you see change in x in this equation, make the value to be what? 0. If that happens, then change in y over change in x becomes the subject matter, the y all over the x. So this simply implies in place of change in y over change in x, we simply have the y all over the x, and this is going to be equal to, I have negative 1 divided through by x plus change in x, but change in x now is taken as what? 0, if that theorem must be hold true. So change in x taken as 0. Okay, so I have x plus 0 times x. So this is actually equal to negative 1 all over x plus 0 remains x, so I have x multiplied by x. So this simply implies that the y all over the x is actually what? Negative 1 all over x times x, that becomes what? X squared. And this is the final answer, and you can also write this as what? Negative x to the power of negative 2. So when y is 1 over x, the y dx is simply taken as what? Negative x to the power of negative 2. That's it, guys. I hope to see you in the next video with another amazing question on differentiation. I'm sure you like this video, so do well to comment nicely, share to your friends, and of course click the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you keep getting updates when our next video drop. I will see you in the next video. Thanks.